The New York Yankees bring in Paul Goldschmidt, Naylor is traded to the Diamondbacks, Santana back to the Guardians, and the passing of Rickey Henderson. That and more ahead here at The Upside. And welcome in everybody to an early show for us here on Saturday evening. Quite a bit of news around baseball as teams try to gear up for the holiday, trying to get their business done before the Christmas break. We'll start with the big story, of course, with the New York Yankees adding a really big player to their lineup, somebody who has had better seasons but should still be an impact bat for him, that being Paul Goldschmidt. Right now, I'd imagine he's going to be a bit of a platoon at first base with Ben Rice. We'll see if they decide to move on from Ben Rice and bring in another player. One player they've been connected to in recent days is Nolan Arenado. We got a little bit of news on the Arenado sweepstakes from the Yankees side of things, as they had offered Marcus Stroman in an effort to bring in Arenado. Stroman, of course, has a bigger salary. Obviously, they're looking to try to match a little bit of salary with Arenado coming in and Stroman going out, possibly enticing the Cardinals to accept that offer so that they wouldn't have to retain salary on Arenado. Ultimately, the Cardinals turned that one down, but the Yankees are very active right now, and they should be. I mean, you go from losing probably your second best player on the team in Juan Soto, gets the greatest contract in sports history, not just baseball history, not in the NBA, not in the NFL, not English Premier League, nothing. Juan Soto is now the highest paid player ever in professional sports history as far as in one contract. Absolutely incredible deal. Now, you're going to have to pivot and move on from that. And they've done a great job with that. Max Fried, 8 years, $218 million. They make the trade to bring in Devin Williams. Now they make the trade for Cody Bellinger and now add a first baseman in Paul Goldschmidt. I'd still say they need a third baseman and a long reliever, not a long reliever, an eighth inning guy out of that bullpen. I'd imagine they're looking at some guys who could be long relievers and sixth, seventh guys in that rotation at certain points during the year. But that's really it. That's what the New York Yankees have left to really shop for. And you'd have to say, all things being considered, that's been a pretty good offseason for them. Now, are they, the favorites to win the World Series? No, that still goes to the LA Dodgers. I saw a lot of grief being given to Yankees fans after the acquisition of Paul Goldschmidt, and I don't necessarily buy it. I get that you still have a better team out there on the West Coast, but when you look at the Yankees, I would say they're a better team right now with what they've done than what they were last year. Max Fried, Devin Williams, I think are going to solidify that pitching staff quite a bit. I think they're going to be a pitching-led team rather than an offense-led team. They were really two big guys in the middle of that lineup last year and a bunch of players at best. The New York Yankees have done a nice job getting better on the pitching side of things. They're still going to add another hitter, I do believe. Whether that's going to be Bregman, Arenado, Bohm, or another third baseman remains to be seen. But I would argue they're a better overall team than they were a year ago. Let us know in the comments section what you think of Goldschmidt ultimately going to the New York Yankees. The other bit of news that I kind of highlighted there was the Nolan Arenado talks to the Yankees. Maybe now they try to switch gears here and try to bring in Arenado. Sounds like Stroman might be on the way out if they're having to take on the salary of Arenado. If that's the case, I'd imagine they're still going to look for, with a little bit more urgency anyway, a fifth, sixth starter for that rotation. Because that rotation, while very good, is very top-heavy. There's not a lot of depth there. Remember, they traded away Cortez to bring in Devin Williams. I still think there's a possibility they try to work out something with Arenado, with Bregman on the open market. I think those are the top two options for the Yankees to be their everyday third baseman next season. But welcome in, everybody. John, Holly, Demon, Rafe, Ethan, Mark. Appreciate you guys joining us. Let's kind of go through these comments real quick, and then we'll catch you guys up on the other stories today. Are the Yankees getting Arenado? I would say he's kind of their target right now, unless things change with Alex Bregman. Seems like money is becoming a bit of an issue right now for the Yankees. I told you guys yesterday how I don't really buy the Yankees playing the, oh, we're the poor Yankees card. Come on, we're talking about one of the greatest payrolls in professional sports, especially in baseball. The Yankees are known to be that evil empire, and just because they now have competition at the top of the market, you don't get to all of a sudden cry, we're now the poor guys. We're not the highest spending team anymore. We can't exactly afford these guys anymore. Give me a break. They can still afford every single item they would like to go after. And while they might not have the same pockets of a Cohen or of the Guggenheim partners, they still are very well funded. They have no issue being able to make ends meet. So stop crying poor to me, Yankees. So we'll see what they ultimately do. I think Arenado is their preference right now. But again, this kind of smacks a lot of the Josh Donaldson trade that we saw when they should have brought in Carlos Correa. This speaks a lot of what that is right now. I think Bregman right now on the market is kind of the Correa of this year. I think Arenado is kind of the Donaldson of that year, and I think the better long-term piece for them would be Bregman. I think he would solve a lot of issues for them, give them an impact bat in that lineup. While Arenado is still a very good player, he's not on Bregman's level anymore. I think they're still very good players with Goldschmidt and Arenado, but I would say Bregman is certainly a far more vocal leader at this point in his career, and he's known nothing but playoff baseball. I love that about him. I think that coming into the Yankees clubhouse would help them get to where they want to go. But are the Yankees getting Arenado? I would say yes at the moment, but like I said the other day, Arenado's waiting to make his decision. Maybe bringing in Goldschmidt, his former teammate, would help make it a little easier of a transition there. Remains to be seen what the return is going to be if the Yankees do ultimately acquire Arenado, but it sounds like they're going to try to find a taker for Stroman at some point. Maybe a team out there is looking for some starting pitching, might take a chance on Stroman and just eat the money there. Looking at you, the Oakland or Sacramento A's at this point, they are said to still be looking for another starting pitcher there. We'll catch up on the A's here in a little while as well. Got an update for you guys as to why they're spending the money this offseason. But I would say the Yankees are leaning towards Arenado. Let's see here. Demon, Yankees are getting Aaron Boone for third base. Maybe 15, 20 years ago, but no, not right now. Welcome back, Ethan. What are the Rangers cooking? Still pretty much the same thing we talked about the other night. They're still looking for a primary closer. They're looking for a great setup guy. They've done a nice job rebuilding their 6th, 7th inning guys. There have been connections to Nathaniel Lowe. Now with the first basemen coming off the market today anyway, we saw 3 of them with Goldschmidt, with Santana, and Naylor all being moved. We could see Nathaniel Lowe be traded if nobody else likes the other options on the market. For instance, say the New York Mets look at Pete Alonso and say, hey, these other guys have already found their teams. Those places you were thinking about signing that you're using as leverage against us, we don't buy it. We're going to keep our contract, offer where it was, and you're either going to accept it or we're going to move in a different direction. That could be Nathaniel Lowe. Now, Lowe, I think, would have been a great option for New York with them getting Goldschmidt. I'd take them off the menu there. But there's still a few more teams out there that could use an impact first baseman. Looking at the Chicago Cubs, I know they had a good year from Bush, but you look at the numbers around Bush, while he's a young player, there's going to be some regression there. So maybe bringing in Lowe to kind of platoon there, maybe be a DH at sometimes would be a good option there. Giants could use a first baseman this year. Lowe only has 2 years left on his deal. They're looking to improve that lineup. I think he'd be a good get for them. But pretty much anybody in the market for a first baseman. Say the Blue Jays trade Vlad Guerrero at the trade deadline, we could see Lowe's name pop up in connection to the Blue Jays at that point. But I think it's still too early to pick out names for other teams besides the Yankees. Now that we've taken the Yankees off the board for Goldschmidt. But to answer your question, what are the Rangers cooking? I still think they're looking primarily at that bullpen. Appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 35 of you guys with us right now. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, we're ever closer to our 2,000 goal by the end of the year. We're trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe on the video, it would go a long way to helping us. I know we gained at least 10 subscribers in the overnight hours since we last were live on the air last night. So really appreciate those of you who have joined us. If you guys are new here, thank you guys very much for joining and being a part of us, or joining us here at the Upside, following us over on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Rafe, I'll leave out the language there anyway because of the YouTube restrictions, but what are the Guardians doing, LOL? They're basically taking one asset that had 1 year left on his deal in Naylor and parlaying that into getting some good young long-term options for them, i.e. what the Guardians have always done. The reason why this is surprising is because this was supposed to be a season where they were pushing the pedal down, that they were trying to compete and win a World Series. Now, they were hoping to make a big-time impact transaction, like bringing in Kyle Tucker, I think would have been that piece for them. But with 1 year left on his deal, I wonder how far they would have ever even gotten into those discussions when the same thing with Naylor here, they're letting him go. Now, you look at who they brought in, Carlos Santana, the all-around numbers anyway suggest he had a little bit better of a year, but Naylor's the younger player. You got to wonder if Santana's going to be able to do it again. They're getting paid roughly the same amount here, so the money's a bit of a wash, which is better for the Guardians because now they've got the good young talent secured long-term, while they're not going to have a big drop-off at first base as far as production. Love the move for the Guardians, and this is more of the Guardians just being the Guardians, turning one asset that has depreciating value into assets that are going to have ascending value and value long-term to that team. Really like what the Guardians have done this offseason, moving on from Jimenez, the Horowitz trade, or the return that they got back, flipping them on to Pittsburgh, getting Luis Ortiz. Now the transaction here, sending out Naylor, getting a couple of long-term pieces back, and making a good addition at first base in Carlos Santana. Love the idea of where the Guardians are headed this offseason, and we'll see if they make any other shrewd moves. I think bullpen is probably where they target next, but we'll see where they go. Mark, I'm hearing a rumor that Luis Castillo, Ryan Mountcastle trade. I don't believe it because of Mark Elias not being aggressive when he should be on Burns, certain to leave. I would agree there. I mean, Burns looks like he is on the way out. Looks like they're going to have to go the trade route to get a starting pitcher. For me, I still think Castillo is a great fit there. If I were a betting man, I would say Castillo would be the better option there long term, and there's a natural trade fit, like you mentioned in that message there, about Mountcastle possibly being the return the other way. I think that would be good for both teams. I just mentioned the Rangers' possibility of having Nathaniel Lowe being a trade target out there. Maybe they would be a team that could help out the Mariners and give them some offensive production. But I don't think they'd be a fit for Castillo. So while the Mariners are looking for offense, maybe their best way to do it by moving Castillo, if they're looking for a first baseman, would be the return of Mountcastle as well. Let's check out a few more of these messages here. Castillo to Texas for Lowe could really work. Yes, possibly, but I don't see Texas going for Castillo, mainly because of the money long term. I don't think he's going to be that much of a difference maker. It's an in-division trade, and those are always hard. Remember the Cliff Lee trade? Let's see here. Mark, Rickey Henderson was one of my favorite all-time players. Such a terrible loss. Absolutely. And at 65, too. That's, you always want to, pay attention to the Hall of Fame every single year. You get to see those guys that were your favorite players growing up. And to lose him at 65, you're hoping to still be able to hear more stories, hear more Rickey Henderson, get to experience more of what life had for him. And 65, you think that's an older age when you're young, but I'm 35, almost 35 years old now. That's still early, and what a guy he was. Just energy on the base paths, energy in the clubhouse, energy everywhere he went. He was never lacking for that, and that's one of his greatest attributes. That he never let that energy waste. He was always moving. Stolen base leader, all-time stolen base leader. There was a tweet I saw that the current stolen base leader, Starling Marte, even if he stole 50 extra bases every single year he had played, he would still be 200 behind Rickey Henderson. Tells you how much, one, the game has changed, and two, how special Rickey really was on the base paths. Great leadoff hitter as well. Jason Stark had a good remembrance of him as well. A lot of memories pouring in on X, and it's a tough loss for baseball, I will say that. So I didn't get to see him play too much anyway, and but I've watched many of his games on MLB Network, the classic games, whenever they show them again in the offseason. And you can definitely see the impact that he made. You hear all the sound bites that he has. He definitely wasn't a shy guy, and his presence will be missed. All right, Anthony, did you see the recent reports that there are still teams that are willing to trade for Jesus Luzardo even with his back injury, and they're willing to give up a few top prospects? No, I have not. And honestly, I'd find that a little bit surprising, mainly because the injury risk, the high ERA, those are big red flags for any organization, even to acquire him for a smaller return. To give up top prospects for Jesus Luzardo at that point, I think would be complete miss from an organization. As much as I'm hoping the Marlins get what they're hoping for in return for a trade, you're going to have to wait until the trade deadline. I just don't buy a team willing to give up that much. Rafe, Mariners and Rangers aren't doing business. I saw some of that, some of the moves today. The low trade interest is heating up, but we shall see what happens. I agree there. I mean, Mariners and Rangers, they've made trades in the past. I've mentioned the Cliff Lee deal. Maybe they do something there, but I just don't see a fit. Lowe would be a fit for the Mariners. I just don't see Castillo as a fit for Texas. Lowe's interest is certainly heating up, though. I would say outside of Alonso, he's probably the top name on the trade market right now. Ethan, last Mariners-Rangers trade was probably Cliff Lee. I think that's pretty close. I think there was a minor trade in between there and now, but we'll see. Flat Earth Underground, welcome in. Appreciate you joining us for the first time. If you guys are new here, please hit that like and subscribe on the video. We're trying to reach 2,000 by the end of the year. Got about a week and a half left. We gained 10 in the overnight hours yesterday anyway. So if you guys wouldn't mind helping us out, we would greatly appreciate it. So please and thank you for subscribing. Let's see here. Bichette to Cubs, Horner to Mariners. Bichette maybe at the trade deadline would be a fit for the Cubs if they're looking to upgrade, say at third or second base. I think they're still happy with Dansby Swanson. I don't think there's a trade there that sends Swanson back to the Blue Jays. For the second part of that, they'd have to move off of Horner. That would make sense. The Mariners have interest. If that were to happen at the deadline, Horner maybe have rebuilt his value. Then we could see him go on to the Mariners. But right now, I think Horner's value is so low that the Cubs aren't going to get what they're hoping for in trade. So they're going to have to wait till for that to happen to the trade deadline anyway. So maybe a 3-team trade there could work between the Mariners, Blue Jays, and Cubs. Rafe, Seager MVP season incoming. Honestly, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I think that bat has got to have to play up this year. The team as a whole for the Rangers really had a down year offensively. They're going to regress back to the mean. Now remember, the year they won the World Series, everybody was having career years for the Rangers though. So you're going to have some of that there again, but some of those guys aren't going to reach that ceiling ever again. And I think Seager's one of the guys that has a chance to eclipse what he did that year. He is that type of a player. And remember, he missed about a month and change of the season last year as well. If he's healthy for the 162 or at least close to it, say 140, 145 games, I think he could be there. But I still think Ohtani being able to pitch and hit on the National League side could very well be an MVP candidate once again. Aaron Judge, you got to knock him off. Alvarez is going to be in that discussion as well. If the Blue Jays do anything this season, you got to imagine Bichette or Vlad Guerrero could be in that conversation. There's going to be some interesting candidates that we see for MVP. I think Adley Rutschman has an MVP caliber season in him as well. Gunnar Henderson could be in that conversation as well. John, is Cashman done dealing? No, he is not. Cashman is still going to be looking for a third baseman. I mentioned the reports that said Stroman was offered up in return for Nolan Arenado. I'm sure there would have been other pieces attached there, but you can see the desire for the Yankees to offload some salary in Stroman instead of having the Cubs the Cardinals pay down some of the deal for Arenado. I think that was trying to reduce the prospect return for the Cardinals. Cardinals, I think, were willing to pay down a little bit of that deal. We just saw in the deal with the Houston Astros that was declined anyway by Nolan Arenado that they were willing to eat about 15% or $15 million of that deal. That's a lot of money, and if the Cardinals are willing to do that, tells me they're not willing to eat more money coming back for Stroman just to reduce the return that they're going to get for Arenado. They want the pieces they want in return for him, and I think they're going to get it. It's just a matter of what they think a pretty good deal for them would be. But I do think the Yankees are targeting third base right now. Got about 55 of you guys with us. Our numbers are continuing to grow right now, so make sure you hit that like and subscribe as our chat gets busier and busier the longer we're going to be live. If you guys want to send us a super chat to support the channel, we would greatly appreciate that. Hit that like and subscribe. Like I said, we're trying to reach 2,000 by the end of the year. If you wouldn't mind helping us out and reaching that goal. Ethan, Longhorns beat Clemson, going to cook Arizona State next. Longhorns did look good, but again, it's Clemson. They haven't been great all year. Let's see here. Rafe, your new odds projection for Burns to Giants or others? Well, I told you the Giants have now slipped under 50% for me. I still think they're the favorite, but I'm going to hover still right at 45% until probably after Christmas. Once we get after Christmas, we could see those numbers shift even more. But for me, I still think the Giants are there, primarily because the other teams in the race have already filled their positions or are moving on to other targets. For instance, the Boston Red Sox bring in Patrick Sandoval. They no longer have a hole in their rotation for Burns to fit into. Sure, he's the better pitcher, but they already filled the hole. They don't need to bring in Burns at this point. The Blue Jays, I'm sure they have a really great offer on the table for Burns, and I'm sure the Blue Jays would love to sign him, but it tells me on the open market right now, Burns doesn't like the thought of going to Toronto. Why? All the instability in the organization could be one of the reasons. Maybe he just doesn't want to live in Canada. Maybe he wants to be out on the West Coast in California where he's originally from. Maybe there's another mystery team he'd prefer to go to. But it tells me right now, with them pivoting to Nick Pivetta and other free agent starting pitchers, that they see Burns as more of a long shot at this point. The mystery team, quote-unquote, whoever that might be, the thoughts were it could be the Red Sox, it could be the Orioles, it could be the Rangers. But the one team we know that's in there is for the San Francisco Giants. And that tells me the offer isn't quite high enough to where he's hoping it would get to. And we'll see if the numbers continue to rise to his liking. And if they don't, maybe a surprise team jumps in there. The Dodgers, the Rangers, maybe the Yankees, if they're able to offload Stroman, jump in there for Burns. You know, all these things are possibilities right now. And I think it's going to take until after Christmas before we really see some movement now on Burns. We were hoping to see something last week after the winter meetings. Ultimately, it didn't happen. Nothing happened over the weekend. And then this week, it sounds like the offers just weren't overwhelming to Bregman or for Burns. So, sounds like this could take a little bit of time. Let's see here. David, welcome back. They tried to trade Mountcastle last year. That they did. Are the Yankees getting Bregman? I would say no at the moment, but they are still contemplating third base. Sounds like they're looking at Arenado first and see if they can get that one across the finish line. That one, though, could take till January. If it does, maybe they move on and go back to free agency and bring in Bregman. They did an impact bat more than anything else. I think bringing in two competent bats in Goldschmidt and Arenado, who were aircraft carriers at one point in their careers, they are no longer that. And so while I think they could still do better, that would be better than what they've had as far as having more productive, above average major league players in the lineup. I still think they need that one impact piece to kind of round out this lineup. And I think Bregman would be the perfect piece for them. Ethan, Santana, $12 million at 38, 39 years old. What do you think of Goldie at 12.5? Seems like a steal. I think both of those deals are actually pretty good. I think Goldschmidt for a 1-year deal for the Yankees makes a lot of sense. They don't necessarily have to go to the top of the market for Alonso or for Walker. They miss out on Walker. 3 for 60. He goes to Houston. Love that deal for them, by the way. We'll dig in on a little bit more of the fallout from Christian Walker as well. But $12.5 million for Goldschmidt, I think, solves their first base issues at least for 1 year. As for the Santana piece, I mentioned how Naylor was moving on to the Diamondbacks. They get to recoup some value, long-term value in that deal, and then they still have about the same type of player, at least as far as value, to the Guardians by bringing in Santana. And it's 1 year at $12 million. He's easily off the books next year. And if one of your younger players is ready to take over that spot, you continue on with your growth process. That's what the Guardians have always had to do. Keep that roster turning. And we just saw that with Jimenez. And now we see it with Naylor. I told you guys yesterday I'd be surprised if Naylor was moved. And I am surprised today. I mean, I did not see Arizona going the direction of the trade route for Josh Naylor. I just didn't see it. I saw the Guardians still being interested in improving their roster, but I just didn't see the Diamondbacks being the team to step out there and bring him in. Now, what does this do for them? Of course, this fills the hole left by Christian Walker. 1-year deal. They do give up some value here, but I think they're trying to push for another wild card berth here if you're a Diamondbacks fan. This tells me that they're going to try to push for 2025. Maybe they can catch lightning in a bottle and really compete to win a World Series. Tells me also that maybe they're going to hold on to Jordan Montgomery. If you're bringing in Josh Naylor, you're not exactly looking to jettison pieces that could help you out. Now, as much as he didn't look good last year, as much as ownership really lambasted Montgomery last year in the media, tells me they're not going to get rid of him for nothing. I think Montgomery is still a good pitcher. I think Arizona is hoping with another year being in Arizona, he's going to be a better pitcher for it. Having a more stable offseason is going to help him out. And then if he's still not performing, then they just cut their losses at the trade deadline. But for right now, I think this puts a little bit of a cool water on the Jordan Montgomery rumors. I think there still could be a trade there, but I think right now there's not the urgency that there would have been, say, 24 hours ago. All right, David, do you think the Mariners trade J-Rod? No, I do not. I don't think there's a period at this point where they would trade him at any point. David, Clemson 10-3. I mean, they were still an okay team. That's why they were in the playoffs. But I'm not saying they were a world beater at all. For me, Texas was so much of a better team, even though they had 2 losses to, who was it, Georgia? You could tell the two teams that were on the field, one was clearly better than the other. One could run the ball, one could not. One could stop the run, one could not. And that's, why Texas really won. Cali Yankee fan, interesting combination there. Did Arenado reject the trade to the Astros to go to the Yankees? Possibly. Do the Rockies continue to pay $10 million on the deal if he's traded? Yes. They would still pay down his contract, whatever they agreed to in the trade with the St. Louis Cardinals originally. They still owe their portion of that contract. Now, as far as the Astros deal, I think it was just too early for Arenado in the offseason. They just moved off of Kyle Tucker. He was not going to want to go to another rebuilding situation. He wanted to make sure that team was going to be competitive while he was there. I think the acquisition of Christian Walker would have helped his decision to go there. But now you have Walker at first base, Paredes at third, Alvarez at DH. Maybe you move Alvarez out to left field and shuffle your infield alignment around a little bit. But I don't think there's a fit now for Arenado in Houston. I think you're looking at the New York Yankees. His dream destination is the Dodgers. Dodgers say they have no interest, at least at the moment. Welcome back, Paranormal. I know the Yankees signed a first baseman. By the way, good to see you. I missed 2 hours of free agency. What has happened? What else are the Yankees doing? Well, you missed a lot today. First base really got cracking today. By the way, welcome in everybody. About to our 30-minute mark. About 60 of you guys with us right now. Make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really does help us out. Follow us on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that button, it would really go a long way to helping us out. Thank you in advance. But let's kind of answer your question here about the Yankees and what's really been happening today in the first base market. We get the trade of Naylor that I just mentioned, sending him from the Guardians to the Diamondbacks. That solves the hole that was left by Christian Walker. 1-year deal, of course, left on Naylor. They get some long-term value back out of it, is why the Guardians ended up doing it. Meanwhile, it's basically a wash as far as total value of what they're losing out of that lineup right now. And while Naylor might have a little bit more power, Santana kind of is an all-around player, really good veteran, is going to be a good in that clubhouse for them. And this is a good deal overall for the Guardians, both from the trade and the free agency. Now, we saw Goldschmidt as well get brought in by the Yankees, so first base is finally humming. The Mets are looking at Pete Alonso right now, and I wonder, with him being by far the best option in the free agent market right now, if a deal comes together rather quickly here. If they hold firm to their price, maybe they get him a little bit cheaper, but I'm expecting Pete Alonso to do very well in free agency. We'll see what the numbers ultimately come in at. Let's see here, trying to catch up with these comments. Y'all got a lot of chats with us, so appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you guys, hit that like and subscribe. If you want to make sure I get to your comment, since so many of them are coming through, you can support the channel by, sending a super chat, but it really does kind of pop out to me when I do see those. Let's see here. Rick Brown, welcome in. I think this is the first time I've seen you, chat in our group here, but welcome in, welcome in. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Giants trade for Yandy Diaz or Spencer Steer. Steer, I don't think so. Yandy Diaz, I think, could be had from the Rays. I think they're looking to save as much money as they possibly can. I think Diaz has seen his best days, though. It's not going to cost a whole lot to get him. Maybe we could see a trade of Doval going back the other way and just kind of a major leaguer for major leaguer trade. Not that it's necessarily, a great trade for either side. I think probably a piece or two would have to be added. But I think Diaz, out of those two options, would be the better pick. I dropped a like for you. Thank you, Paranormal. Appreciate that. Rafe, I've seen enough Hookham winning the Natty and Rangers winning the World Series. I still have Notre Dame winning. I think they are the behemoth that nobody is really counting on right now. And I was saying that before what they did against Indiana. Indiana, the game really doesn't matter to me because I didn't think Indiana was a threat in the in the playoff. But I do like Notre Dame. I think Texas has a good chance now that even though they lost twice to to Georgia, I still think they're going to be right there. But everybody, is overlooking Oregon as well. But for me, I still pick the Notre Dame Irish. All right, Ethan, Marcus Stroman for Jordan Montgomery. Honestly, not bad. Stroman would help out, kind of in the debacle for the Diamondbacks as far as Jordan Montgomery. Yankees kind of regretted their decision of trading Jordan Montgomery. I'm just not sure Montgomery would want to go there. I'm not sure he'd be a great fit. And for that reason, I'm not sure if the Yankees would ultimately pull the trigger on that type of a trade. If you're the Diamondbacks, I think you'd probably accept that trade. But for the Yankees, I don't think they would. Let's see here. Smelly Cheese, welcome back. What lefty, second or third baseman can the Yankees get? Left-handed hitter, I'm not sure there's one that makes a lot of sense right now. But as far as a hitter overall, they just need impact in that lineup, which is why Bregman is the only option on the free agent market that gives you that impact in that third base spot. You move Jazz Chisholm over to second. Now, if you go the trade route and you bring in, say, Nathaniel Lowe to be your DH, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe you go the trade route for Nolan Arenado. That would make a little bit more sense than a Nathaniel Lowe who's a lefty kind of a guy. But again, you already filled your first base spot. You'd have to do something different in your infield or at your DH spot than I think you'd really want to. And for me, I think it's going to come down to most likely Arenado, with Bregman as more of a fallback if they can't get a deal done with Arenado quickly here. Welcome back, B Skills. Skrills, anyway. I'm looking forward to the 2025 MLB season. I couldn't agree more. I think 2025 is going to be more competitive than what we've seen in recent memory. And I get a lot of teams have kind of had to shuffle around their TV contracts. Payrolls are so high. Some of that money can turn away certain fans. But for me, all these teams are trying to win right now. A lot of the teams that we're looking at being rebuilding clubs, looking at you A's, looking at you Angels, have also spent this offseason. Royals were the second highest free agent spender last year. Rangers have really rebuilt their ball club, and I think they're going to be very good as well, pending what they do with that bullpen. Yankees are still going to be good, even with the loss of Juan Soto, who just signed the greatest contract in professional sports history. 2025 is going to be great, and Ohtani is going to be back pitching at some point next year as well. So MLB is going to be fun next year. David, Texas was much better. Couldn't agree more. I'm looking forward to spring training. There's always something good in spring training every year. Sometimes you get a late signing. We saw last year Blake Snell and Jordan Montgomery really wait. Michael Lorenzen signed on the last day of spring training as well. Some of those moves worked out better than others. Some people were able to adapt as the season went along. Looking at you, Blake Snell. Some were not. Jordan Montgomery just had a rough year all the way around. We'll see if he has a better 2025. All right, Liberty, are Angels done this offseason? No, I don't think so. They're still in the market for a guy like Gleyber Torres. I've heard them be connected to Yoan Moncada as well. Paranormal did not see that coming with Naylor. Wow, absolutely. I didn't see that either. I told you guys last night I wasn't expecting Naylor to be traded at this point because I didn't see an impact move coming. But of course, it's the Cleveland Guardians doing what the Guardians have always done. It didn't occur to me that Naylor was close to an expiring deal, and that's why they were going to look to try to move on from him. They get a competent player, a very comparable player to Naylor as well in Santana in free agency, paying about the same amount of money. So I get the reason why they did the trade, and they get really good long-term assets out of it. Love the deal for the Guardians. I still like it for the Diamondbacks, but I love it far more for the Guardians, at least at the moment. Rafe, Jays and Dbacks in on Helsley. I think every team in need of relief pitching is in on Helsley. They're just got to be able to convince the Cardinals to part with him. I think the Rangers have kicked the tires on him as well. Welcome in, Doc Ghost. Appreciate you joining us for the first time, I think, today. If you guys are new here, got about 62, 63 of you guys with us right now. If you guys wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe, it would go a long way to helping us out. Tato, based on the return the Yankees got for Trevino, Rangers could explore Lowe for some relievers. Exactly. I'd say Lowe is a significantly better player than Trevino. Trevino is more of a very good pitch framer more than anything else. Doesn't bring you a whole lot from the offensive side of things, but Rangers, if they did move him, maybe they could get a really good, eighth inning setup guy. Maybe we see a trade of a Bednar from Pittsburgh. I don't think that would really be a great deal for Pittsburgh or for the Rangers, but we could see a reliever for a Nathaniel Lowe type trade. But my question is, once you move Nathaniel Lowe, what is your long-term plan at first base? Is it to have a platoon there with Josh Smith and Jake Berger? I think that would be a pretty good choice there. But maybe Ezekiel Duran could be on the move via trade as well. Ethan, I know it's probably cooked, but he's a Hall of Famer. Did the Rangers Rangers did it with Kirby Yates last year? 1 year, $5 million for Craig Kimbrell to Texas. I wouldn't rule that out, or I wouldn't rule that one out. The Rangers have had interest in the past, but I've heard nothing about Craig Kimbrell this offseason, at least certainly to Texas. I think their preference would be to go a little bit higher in the free agent market as far as relievers. They're looking at Kirby Yates first and foremost, looking at Robertson as well. To a lesser extent, they're in on Tanner Scott and then Carlos Estevez. They had interest in. Not sure if they do at this point, or if they do, if he's at least a guy they've checked in with in the last month. But I think they've really focused in on Yates and Robertson, the free agent side of things, and then the trade market. I think they had checked in on Devin Williams. I think if the market was today where it was when Devin Williams was traded, I think we could see the Rangers really making a legitimate offer around Nathaniel Lowe. But they have Rhys Hoskins there. The better fit for them was to always bring in a starting pitcher. Ryan Helsley make a lot of sense. I've seen a few different headlines connecting the Rangers to Helsley. Maybe a Mitch Bratt and another prospect going back the other way as the return for Ryan Helsley. Ryan Presley from the Houston Astros is also out there on the market. But the Dodgers, the one team I constantly hear connected there as well. Alrighty, let's catch up to some of these other comments and then get into a few of the other stories. Paranormal, when does MLB The Show 25 trailer or cover come out? I want to say in another few weeks. Usually they try to drop something a little bit around Christmas or slightly after. But the game usually takes a little bit longer to come out after that. Welcome back, Joshua. OSU. Okay. Let's see here. Saint Vintage, welcome back. Rumors, Mets going Bregman and Alonso. That would be a fantastic offseason, honestly. That would be great for them. I mean, you look at third base. We talked about Carlos Correa possibly being a guy that signs there. Remember, he accepted a deal there. The medical fell apart. Well, there's not going to be a medical issue with Bregman. Maybe that's what the Mets see there with Bregman. I think if they bring in Alonso and Bregman, I still don't think that would even rule them out of possibly bringing in Vlad Guerrero next year, even if they brought in those two impact pieces to that lineup. I think the way the Mets have gone about their offseason, one, of course, they brought in Juan Soto, but they've done some nice work with their rotation as well, bringing in a couple of different pieces like Frankie Montas, Griffin Canning. I like what they've done. I really like the offseason of the Mets, and they're not done. I still think they're going to add to that bullpen. I think Sean Manaea is likely to come back as well. If they got a stack of Alonso and Bregman, It'd be curious to see who ultimately comes out of the National League. Is the Dodgers the team still to beat in the National League, or has that baton now go to the New York Mets with the acquisitions they've made? The two pitchers I hope bounce back for the Guardians are Tristan McKenzie and Logan Allen. Absolutely, I'm a guy that I really root for Tristan McKenzie. Really slim player, but I hope he gets back and gets back to being the pitcher that he was earlier in his career before injuries really kind of derailed him the last couple. Rafe, if the Rangers want a lefty bat, then would they look for a lefty bat in a trade for Lowe with a relief pitcher, or did Berger fill that role if Lowe gets dealt? I think Berger solves their issue from the right-handed side of the plate. I think he solves the hole as far as power, but I think they would be looking for a left-handed hitting corner outfielder right now. That guy would be Jock Peterson. I'm hoping they don't get him. I'm hoping they go in a different direction, but they're focusing on bullpen. Maybe they get in there for Burns. If they do, then they're going to free the money up from Lowe or Gray. If they do bring in Burns, maybe they can still save a little bit of money by moving out Tavares and Gray instead. I would rather hold on to Lowe if I had to, but if a team is willing to overpay for Nathaniel Lowe, since the market really for first base has dried up just in the last few hours, the Rangers would be wise to move on from him because they haven't gotten everything they'd hoped for him. He's a little bit streaky of a hitter. Rangers have a lot of streaky hitters in their lineup right now. By bringing in somebody else at first base, maybe a Yandy Diaz could be a fit there. Maybe that's the route they would go if they move on from Lowe. But for right now, I think Lowe probably starts the season with the Rangers. Do the Cubs flip Ben Brown or Cade Horton from to closer? Or from relief pitcher to closer? Possibly, but I think they're looking more at the big options out there on the free agent market. They've been connected to Kirby Yates as well. Detroit has been as well. They're looking for a premium closer back there in their bullpen. That's where they wanted to spend the money they were saving on Cody Bellinger. Now with the Jesus Luzardo deal falling through, they're going to try to split it up between a late or a fifth, sixth option in their rotation and a closer, and then they still have to bring in a bat. They're still looking for primarily to the closer market right now before they go with internal options there. Paul, welcome in. I think this is the first time I've seen you today. If you guys are new here, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind helping us out. Trying to reach 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So we gained 10 overnight after we had our live last night. We'll have a live every single day. So make sure you guys join us. Hit that subscribe button. Follow us over on X at Upside Ascend and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. If you want to make sure your comment is read, your question is answered. If you want to support the channel, send us a super chat. We really appreciate those when you do send them. But you hope the Red Sox sign Teoscar. They are still looking for a bat. That wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility. They've been connected to him as well as Santander. Bregman still is in the market for them as well. The three teams that we continue to hear in on Bregman are the Blue Jays, the Red Sox, and the Tigers. I think the two teams there, the Tigers and the Red Sox, make a lot of sense. Red Sox, to me, would be the favorite for Bregman, but if they don't bring him in, maybe they go the Hernandez route. But they've got some good outfield options already on that club. They're going to have to probably trade one of those guys if they bring in Hernandez. Vientos goes to DH. I think Vientos probably is your DH right now. Ethan, have you seen Pablo Guerrero? Dude is a stud. Pablo Guerrero. Name is ringing a bell, but I don't remember off the top of my head. In that scenario, Pete and Bregman, that would be fantastic. If Vientos does, or I guess what you're saying is if Alonso comes in and Bregman, that Vientos would probably go to DH. I think that's probably where he plays the majority of the time anyway. I still think the Mets are going to add a third baseman at some point, whether it be Bregman or somebody else. I still think they're looking to upgrade that spot. Let's see, your Tato. By the way, I did see Pass and said players most likely gone in trade are Gray and some other pitchers. Wonder what we could get for Gray. For 1 year, $13 million, a guy that you can probably flex to a high leverage relief role if things don't work out in that rotation. I think you'd get a pretty decent return. I think you're probably looking at a couple of top 15 guys for 1 year of John Gray. Outside of that, maybe you go for a little bit higher promise and maybe get, pardon me, a more premium piece back. But I think the Rangers, if they moved on from Gray, would signify that they've got something brewing that they need to save the money on Gray. Remember, they still have Tyler Mahle. They're paying $17 million to this year. That's a free agent after this year. They got some money coming off the books next year to where they'll be able to go in free agency once again. But primarily, they want to stay under the tax, reset it. Remember, they just paid $11-ish million in tax this year. They want to reset that clock, so we shall see what they do. But remember, the only way they're moving those guys is if they have to save money, and that would be making some big addition like a Corbin Burns. You also, or Corbin Burns anyway. You have a Roque Sasaki that's still out there. Every team's hoping for him. Dodgers are still considered the favorite. He has met with the Yankees, Mets, Cubs, and a few others so far. Rafe, I wanted Gray to succeed for the Rangers so bad, but man, he's just too inconsistent. I think it's primarily the injuries as to why he's been so inconsistent. When he's right, I mean, he's 7 innings with 10 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, and hands the ball to your 8th inning guy, and you're set up well for success. When he's not right, he's giving up homers. He lasts 2 2.3, something like that, and that just destroys your bullpen for a week. And Gray was just too inconsistent from an injury standpoint. With a full offseason, hopefully he's able to be, a more healthy version. And remember, it's a platform year for him, so he's going to want to do well in order to secure the bag next offseason. So we'll see what happens. Pitchers on a 1-year deal, you have a chance to get a little bit more juice out of them than you normally would because, again, they're trying to get that long-term money. And I think Gray has pitched well for the Rangers, but too inconsistent to really make any money on a second deal here in free agency. So I think he's going to pitch well for somebody. It's just a matter of, do the Rangers do something bigger in free agency, or do they hold pat with the guys they brought in? Welcome in, Jonathan. First time I think I've seen you today as well. Appreciate you guys joining us and hitting that subscribe button. Rafe, let's see here. We just talked about that one. Saint Vintage, Marte to Red Sox for bullpen arm makes a ton of sense. I don't think so. Red Sox are already loaded in that outfield right now with such good young players coming. Now, maybe you could argue with 1 year left on Marte, if the Mets pay down that deal, might make a lot of sense, but Red Sox are still trying to build out that bullpen. They're not done adding arms to it, so I don't see them trading away a piece like that. Now, as far as the Red Sox and Marte specifically, I still think they'd rather go in the free agent market than to give up any piece right now for any addition via trade. They have a really good young core coming together, a good young pitching staff being built, and they continue to not want to spend in free agency. So if they could get the Mets to pay down on Marte, I'm sure they would have a little bit more interest, but I don't think there's a long-term fit or even a fit this year for Marte to go to the Red Sox. While I think he would be a decent fit there, they have Abreu already. They're going to have a spot for Anthony as well this year. They're going to have Duran in center. That's your 3 outfielders already, and you already have money spent on Yoshida. I still think they have some good options that they could bring back as well. 4th, 5th outfielder types that they don't need to bring in Marte. I think Marte to Pittsburgh would be a nice fit. We just saw the return of Santana back to the Guardians. Maybe a return back to Pittsburgh for, give them an offensive boost would be a nice piece for them. Red Sox could get a couple of good young pitching prospects out of the deal not the Red Sox, but the Mets could get a couple of good young pitching prospects out of the deal if they pay down almost all of that Marte deal. But Pittsburgh's still looking for offense. I think they'd be open to pretty much anything and everything, with the exception of basically giving away the farm. So we'll see what they do. Guerrero is Vlad Guerrero's brother. He's from Rangers. Okay, thank you for reminding me, Ethan. I did see that one. I think he's going to be very good, possibly even better than Vlad Jr., but glad the Rangers got him. Rafe, what's going to be the deal with Tyler Mahle next year? I think he's going to start the season probably as the number 4 starter. But just like Jacob deGrom, just like all the other guys that they have injury risks for, or rookies, they're going to have guys step in there and come in earlier in the game. For instance, deGrom's probably not going to throw 8 innings for the first 10 starts of the year. If he's on a low pitch count, maybe he gets into the 7th. But I think we're looking at deGrom with Mahle as probably being 5-6 inning pitchers at best for at least the first half of the year. And if their arms are still holding up well and their performance is showing that they could probably go longer into games, then I think the idea would be revisited that they would be able to go deeper into a game. But for right now, I think the plan is to allow Mahle to enter the season as the 4th starter with the upside of being a number 2 at his best. But he's got to prove it. He only threw 3 games last year, so he's got to show that he's healthy, got to show that he's still got it. Those are big question marks for the Rangers right now. Let's see here. It's inevitable Alonso goes back to the Mets. Couldn't agree more with you, Paul. I absolutely agree there. Marte to Pittsburgh. We just talked about that one. Bregman makes the most sense for the Red Sox. Yes, absolutely. I agree there. Him in Boston would be fantastic with that green monster. Possibly flexing Devers over to first base would be better defensively for them as well. Rafe, did you see Bleacher Report trade prediction to Luis Robert from the White Sox to the A's? I don't see that happening. We've heard the A's being a team connected to Luis Robert, but I don't see that either. Vintage, Mets are looking for MLB-ready middle reliever for Marte, assuming they pay his deal. I think they could get that. That isn't out of the realm of possibility. Paul, where do I think Arenado gets traded to? Still too early, at least by Arenado's own admission, that he wants to wait to see where the offseason goes for all these teams. But one of his options, the Houston Astros, has already dried up. Now with the acquisition of Christian Walker at first base, Paredes is now your third baseman. There's no spot for him there. If I was a betting man, I would probably say the Yankees right now. Rangers have David Ortiz Jr. as well. Rangers have done a lot of the sons of former major leaguers in the past, sons of former NFL players in the past as well. They really like that lineage, and that's worked well for some teams in the past. I wouldn't say it worked out quite as well for Daz Cameron, for instance, but we've seen a lot of like Bobby Witt Jr., players like that have that pedigree, that have already been around the game, that might give them a leg up over other competition. And if they hit the ground running, maybe you strike it rich like the Royals did with Bobby Witt Jr. With the Rangers pitching injury history, should they run a six-man rotation? I think they will run a six-man rotation, at least in the first half of the year. You look at their rotation right now, probably DeGrom is your one, Eovaldi's your two. Trying to remember who's in there as well. Was it John Gray I had as the 3, Molly is the 4, Kumar Rocker is the 5, and Leiter is the 6, but he's got to earn it. I think Bradford could make a case to be the 6th in that rotation as well, but I think if you're going to have Leiter on the roster, I would rather have him in that rotation. I think Bradford's best spot is in that rotation. Dunning is probably your long man out of the bullpen. Maybe you bring back Urena as well. They did release or DFA Owen White, so maybe a team like the Rockies claims him, but we'll see. I haven't heard any news as to whether or not he was claimed anyway. Vintage, if Bregman wants to fight for another ring, it'll be the Mets, fitting with Lindor, Vientos, Soto, Alonso, Nimmo, etc. That's a killer lineup. I couldn't agree more. I think if they get Bregman, like I just said at the top, or just a few minutes ago, I would say they have a real chance to ultimately supplant the Dodgers as the World Series favorite on the NL side. Gotta play the games. Injuries are a factor. We saw that with the Dodgers. They were able to weather those injuries and still win a World Series. They're going to be healthier this year. Got to see how the season plays out, but they would be right there, maybe a little bit above the Dodgers if they got both Alonso and Bregman, still added Sean Manaea to that rotation. I think then we could talk about the Mets being a legitimate threat on even playing field with the Dodgers. Ethan, I say sign and draft all the juniors. Well, so there's some teams that do take that tack. Rangers have done so recently anyway. Alrighty, let's kind of recap where we are right now. Let's go ahead and head over to our page here. Just going to pull up X and see if anything else is happening at the moment. Doesn't look like it there. A lot of talk about college football. Alright, go back up to the top. We'll start with... Oh, we do get a trade here. Corey Julks has been designated for assignment from the White Sox. Cam Boozer has been acquired by the White Sox. Okay. In case you guys are just joining us, Paul Goldschmidt has agreed to a 1-year, $12.5 million deal to go to the New York Yankees. Carlos Santana has agreed to a $12 million deal, not a 12-year deal anyway, to go to the Cleveland Guardians. Why is that important? Because now they have traded away Josh Naylor to the Arizona Diamondbacks. First base, musical chairs was certainly in effect today. First base options that are still out there on the free agent market, you're looking at Anthony Rizzo, but the biggest guy out there is Pete Alonso. Trade market, you're looking at possibly Ryan Mountcastle, Yandy Diaz, Nathaniel Lowe. Lowe's heard his name come up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks, and I wonder if the Rangers really are in the market for Corbin Burns, if this thing could really have legs. So we'll have to wait and see where Corbin Burns signs, but if he does go to Texas, that could really set up some more musical chairs as far as John Gray, Nathaniel Lowe, Leody Taveras as well. Rangers are still looking for bullpen. They're going to add bullpen, even if they bring in Corbin Burns, but we'll see what happens. But that's kind of your headlines from today. The Weisinga's deal came through, and of course the saddest news of the day, Rickey Henderson passing away at 65. Best wishes to his and his family and his fan base out there. I know a lot of the older generation really got to enjoy his playing career, to enjoy Rickey the person, and that high energy, high motor, unwilling to take an inch or unwilling to give an inch on anything. Always super aggressive, and that's just how Rickey really was from start to finish. From everything I've ever seen or read or watched of Rickey, he was never the passive type, and he certainly will be missed. All right, Yankees are over the tax at the moment. They are. Vintage has Kim from the Padres signed yet. He'd be a fit for the Yankees. I have not seen him sign anywhere yet. You also have Ha-Sung Kim coming over as well. Let's see here. Rafe, would Mania to Rangers make any sense? Before Eovaldi, yes. After Eovaldi, no. Paul, Corbin Burnes will probably sign San Francisco. 7 for $245, your prediction. 7 for $210 is probably what I would expect for Burnes to go to San Francisco. But I wonder if San Francisco's a little bit lighter on their offer. Remember, Max Fried got 8 for $218. Rangers had offered 7 years at $190. Burnes is the better player, I would argue, at this stage. And I think he's going to do very well in free agency. I'm just not sure it's $245 million well. I think that's part of the reason why he hasn't signed with the Giants as of yet. I think the Blue Jays have already passed that offer that you just mentioned. I just don't think he's going to take it right now. But Passan had that report yesterday anyway that said that Bregman and Burnes both want to wait until after Christmas. Now, whether that's because the team teams interested are ones that they're willing to accept, the money not being there, the length not being there for the deal, as far as the term of the contract anyway, or if they just want to go out on a vacation for the holidays. All of those are valid reasons for why this is going to take a little bit longer. But I would expect them to sign after Christmas. Hopefully before New Year's, but we'll see what happens. I think we might get an Arenado deal in January as well. They need to move Stroman. I think they tried to in the Arenado deal. I think if they bring in Arenado or if they bring in Bregman, they will once again revisit moving on from Stroman. Dodgers trying to trade for Seiyu Suzuki. I have not heard that one. Cubs would absolutely love it, I guarantee it, but I have not heard the Dodgers as a team connected to him. Tato, if the Rangers trade low for salary relief, you do have to think Burnes could be on the table, especially if they trade Gray away after the deal. That would basically cover Burnes' salary for the year. Absolutely. That's kind of why I say I would wait until the deal is done and he's signed on the dotted line before I would move off of Gray or Lowe. And then when Sasaki does sign, say the Rangers win the bidding there, I think he could easily be in that 6-man rotation as well. Maybe we see a Jack Leiter trade like I postulated yesterday about him going to the Sacramento A's, I guess is what we would call them, for Mason Miller. Probably include a couple other pieces there, but an inexpensive option to really solve their bullpen issues as well. But he's just got to stop punching the wall, man. I have not, Joshua, if you have the details on where you saw the Seiyu Suzuki rumors to the Dodgers, I'd love to see them. Not that it would be a dynamic move for the Dodgers, but I think it would really give some payroll flexibility to the Cubs to try to acquire more talent. Maybe bring in Walker Buehler and a top reliever, but right now I don't think they have the money to really do both. Let's see, Rafe, when does Sasaki have to sign by? Well, he was posted already. He's got 45 days. The posting window is open for that 45-day window, but he wants to be able to maximize his dollar. To do that, the international bonus pool resets on January 15th, so that's the earliest he will sign by. The last day of that 45-day window is January 23rd, so sometime in that range is when Sasaki will sign. Now, we may get news before that he's going to sign somewhere before that, but for right now, teams are still meeting with him. He's going to take his time, and I wouldn't expect any news before the turn of the calendar. All right, Joshua, according to Bleacher Report, they are targeting him to replace Teoscar. Interesting. I know Bleacher Report always puts out there, hey, what about this? Prediction-type articles, and none of them really have legs. They're just postulating what would be a good fit. I wonder if that's what this is here, but if it is a legitimate, source that they're, crediting with, saying the Dodgers are interested in Seiyu Suzuki, that would be something different. But for me, I wouldn't look at Suzuki right now if I'm the Dodgers. I'd be trying to bring back Teoscar Hernandez since he's only looking for a 3-year deal between $22 and $24 million. I am on X at UpsideSN and on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. Paul, if you guys want to hit that like and subscribe, it really would go a long way to helping us out. Trying to reach 2,000 before the end of the year. We're getting ever closer, so if you guys wouldn't mind hitting that button, it would go a long way to helping out. Thank you for those of you who have super chatted and who have hit that like and subscribe. It really does go a long way. You think Luis Castillo ends up getting traded? I do. Remember, the Mariners have a self-imposed $15 million budget. If you're looking to add one bat and basically minor league guys the rest of the offseason, then hey, by all means, stick to that $15 million budget. But you look at the greatest rotation the Mariners have ever had in their history, that's what they just had. And now they're going to have to dismantle it in order to build up their offense. And the one guy that they can do that with that has some value out there, maybe not great value because remember, he's still getting paid, is Luis Castillo. And a team like the Baltimore Orioles, I think, could be the beneficiary there. Let's see here. Bleacher Nation and Sports Illustrated reported Suzuki Dodgers rumored to replace Hernandez. Okay, all right. Tato, I believe Rosenthal is saying Dodgers are looking elsewhere for Teoscar replacement because they can't agree on the money. He is looking for 2 years, 64 to 72. That is not what I have heard. I think his original market, that's what he was looking for in the $28 to $33 million range were the numbers I heard originally. We heard reports from Passan and Nightingale, I believe. I think Heyman was in on it as well a few days ago that said Hernandez's market was between $22 and $24 million. I wonder if the beginning price was too high. That's why they went with Conforto, and now that it's down a little bit to say 22 to 24, according to some, that it might be more palatable for the Dodgers to be able to bring him back. But if it's for 3 years in that range, that would still be around that $22 to $24 million. I think that would be something the Dodgers could afford and would be more interested in rather than the, $28-ish million. But appreciate you guys joining us. We'll be live for about another 5 minutes here. If you guys have any more questions before we log off here, please hit that like and subscribe. Send us that question. We'll see if we can answer it for you. We'll head over to X and see if anything else is happening at the moment. We will have another live for you guys later on this evening with a lot of the action happening earlier today. I wanted to make sure we got on here and did a live for you guys, breaking down all the moves that happened on the first base market. Goldschmidt to the Yankees, Santana to the Guardians, Naylor to the Diamondbacks. I want to check in on the Diamondback situation, though. We talked a little bit about what this means for them as far as playoff positioning, but I really like how this sets up their team overall. They really needed another power bat. Walker had started to find his power stroke in there. And remember, Jock Peterson was there, had a career year for them. They're missing some power there. And Naylor is going to help replace some of that. So I really like the acquisition for the Diamondbacks. One team that we haven't talked about too much today is the Houston Astros. They got their guys they were hoping to bring in at the trade deadline. One in Isaac Paredes via the trade for Kyle Tucker. And now after Arenado turns them down, they quickly pivot to the other guy they were targeting in Christian Walker. I think it's a better play for them, honestly, long term. Understandably, Walker's 34 years old, but you're not having to give up anything to bring him in either. And so I really like the deal overall, and I really like the way the Astros have handled their offseason. Hats off to their front office, to Dana Brown. I was not expecting them to have this good of an offseason, and they've really opened my eyes with what they've been able to accomplish. Congratulations there in Houston. As a Rangers fan, that's a little tough to say, but like I said, the Astros aren't the same team they were, say, 6, 7, 8 years ago, with the braggadocious guys there, with Carlos Correa, with George Springer. Now it's a team that I can kind of root for as a fan of the Rangers again, even though they're in the same division. Texas fan, and remember, I grew up, cheering for Biggio, for Bagwell, for Berkman, for Moises Alou was probably my favorite player on the team. Brad Ausmus, Richard Hidalgo. I'm sure I'm missing like 20 other guys, but I remember rooting for those guys. Those were the teams I could root for from the Houston Astros, especially when they were on the National League side. It was really tough to cheer for them with Carlos Correa on the team. Really tough to cheer for them with George Springer, but they're getting out of that phase, and I really like the way their franchise is kind of turning the page and kind of becoming a more respectable team. From the top down, less braggadocious, letting their play, be the, set the example rather than talking a whole bunch. And then, they've been backing it up, but it just makes it twist that knife a little bit more. It makes it harder to root for you. It's an us against the world kind of thing, the way they were making it out to be. So, I really like what the Astros have done so far. Alrighty, Rafe, will you buy a Burns jersey if the Rangers sign him? If I had the money to, my friend, I would. I really want a Jacob deGrom jersey. I know, Rangers fans are already sour on him, but to me, he was probably the biggest free agent acquisition the Rangers have ever made via free agency, especially for a starting pitcher. I think Corey Seager was that before that, but I don't think anybody thought deGrom would really sign with the Texas Rangers. Now, the Rangers did have to overpay by quite a bit. 2 years more than what the Mets were willing to offer. Far more money as well, with a option there as well that could vest, which probably won't due to innings he ultimately probably won't reach at this point. But still got to love the deal. It really changed the paradigm in the organization. Honestly, the thing that really changed it was CY becoming the president of baseball ops, becoming the GM. He was really the face that turned everything around, bringing in Simeon, bringing in Seager, making the acquisition of John Gray, bringing in Nathan Eovaldi is probably the single biggest thing he's done as far as acquisition to push us over the top. That signing alone, I think, really got the Rangers a World Series. And to answer your question, if they get Burns, would I buy a jersey? If I had the money, my friend, if I have the money. Paul, my confidence is shot with the Red Sox front office ownership signing free agent night ticket players. I get your point there, is that they haven't really spent in free agency at the levels we are used to them seeing in the 2004 to 2010-ish range. They've been going more of the A's and Rays route, and that's really the route they were always wanting to go down. The experiment hasn't worked. The fan base has been vocal about their displeasure during this period of time for the Red Sox, and they said they were going to make changes. They were going to do things differently. They make the trade for Garrett Crochet. They bring in Patrick Sandoval and Aroldis Chapman, but unless they bring in a top-flight option via free agency, it's more of the same. This is the same old book they've been playing out of the last 5-6 years now, and that's not going to sit well with Red Sox fans. We'll see if they bring in Bregman to really change that narrative around. Ethan, Jake Berger was an option for the Mariners, but the Rangers stole him. Berger was kind of out of nowhere, but the Marlins were shopping him to some extent. They have a little bit of a glut of corner infielders that they were looking to move off of one of them. Berger is more of a power hitter more than anything else. They're hoping to have a little bit more youth there. Berger is also a little bit older. 4 years left to control is why he was a little bit more valuable on the trade market. And ultimately, the Rangers get the deal done. Mariners are looking for offensive upgrades, so we shall see what they do. CY is the Rangers' savior. I don't know about savior, but certainly probably one of the best executives they've ever had. I know a lot of Rangers fans dump on John Daniels, but I mean, he was the one who actually got him to the World Series before CY. And I know a lot of people try to discredit him because of Nolan was the guy who helped him get that far. It was still John Daniels doing the majority of the heavy lifting there. He deserves a lot more credit than what Rangers fans give him. And I've been the John Daniels apologist before, but I think at this point we see that CY has turned into a better version of what John Daniels was able to do. Nowhere was he able to bring in players like Seager or DeGrom. CY was able to do it, not John Daniels. The best free agent he brought in was Adrian Beltre, and he was great, don't get me wrong. But we were missing the top-flight starter. We were missing the impact bat at the level of a Seager. Beltre is more on the Simeon level, while Seager is in a different class. He's an MVP caliber player. Beltre was never that. Simeon is never going to be that. Seager has the chance to still be in that conversation even now. Rafe, what team outside of the Rays and A's do you see building a new stadium first? Honestly, I could see a team like Nashville. There is already structure in place for Nashville to get a ball club. We'll see if that one gets done. Mattingly is supposedly one of the architects there that could be the first manager in their franchise history, but they still have to get that one across the finish line before you can have a team. So I would say probably Nashville right now because I think they're going to get a team sometime in the next few years. But that would be my guess. Appreciate you guys joining us. Got about 50 of you guys with us as we're about to head out for at least right now. We'll be back live around 10, 11 o'clock this evening. Be sure to join us then as well. But appreciate you guys joining us, hitting that like and subscribe. Remember, we're trying to hit 2,000 before the end of the year. So if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. Follow us over on X at UpsideSN and over on Facebook, Upside Sports Network. We'll see you guys a little bit later this evening. Y'all have a good one.